All right, everyone, welcome back for another video. And today we're going to be talking about, as we already saw from the title, Game 4 of the 2026 NBA Finals, where we just witnessed the New York Knicks take down the San Antonio Spurs in a fourth quarter thriller. There's a lot to talk about with this game. It was incredible down the stretch. So let's get into it. The New York Knicks take down the San Antonio Spurs in a one-point game at MSG after being down 29 points at half. 20 points in the fourth quarter. Man, was it just incredible effort by the New York Knicks. So early out the gate, the Spurs led the entire game. From the first quarter all the way down to the fourth quarter, about the 4-minute mark of the fourth is when things really started to heat up, and the Knicks were able to gain the lead against the San Antonio Spurs for the first time the entire game. Early on, we saw the Spurs being able to really just overwork. The Knicks stars were playing incredibly well until they weren't. Fourth quarter, we just witnessed some of the most incredible basketball. Truly, some historic stuff was going down this game. We witnessed the largest comeback in NBA Finals history by the New York Knicks, something they've done even earlier in this playoffs against the Cleveland Cavaliers and Donovan Mitchell. This game had a lot of highs, a lot of lows, lots of things to just really dissect because no one would have ever guessed it went this way. Fourth quarter when things really did start to kick up a notch. All right, so let's get some of the early game details out of the way. First being this game took place in MSG. So our officials tonight were Zach Zarba as crew chief, James Williams, aka Gucci Ref, and Courtney Kirkland. Now, as for the officiating, they kept the whistle blowing every time they thought the physicality was getting out of hand, which people were complaining about given the last couple of games. We saw how physical both teams were being. So, yeah, the refs really took control of the game in terms of making sure they were just calling the right calls, giving the players the free throws they deserved, which at some point did lead to the game slowing down a lot. There was a lot of stoppage in this game. Just no one overexerted their physicality against one another, right? Once again, everybody played. No one sat out this game. If anything, some of the injured players actually looked better this game, but some players did have to sit for a lot of this game from other outside factors. Now, going into this game, there was a little bit of feelings involved in terms of just overall New York's atmosphere and how they felt about the whole series in general. I'm pretty sure to get into MSG, they have to run your credit at this point, considering how it's just absurd the ticket prices are. And then there was the controversy again with New York, and their mayor was under fire because they had stops, a lot of watch parties, and just all the accumulation of fans in different areas. And this was because there was some stuff going on with some fan interactions where we saw some San Antonio fans literally like having to run through like a zombie horde of Knicks fans just harassing them for just wearing the jersey. It's a lot. That's a lot. No fan wants to have some sort of experience like that. At the end of the day, we all love basketball, so keeping that in mind. New York, a lot of controversy on that end, but maybe some of it is well earned. All right, now let's get into the actual gameplay side of things, starting off with the first half. So I'm going to be honest with you, this was kind of the most boring half of the game, at least I felt, because there wasn't really much of a competition. It kind of just seemed like the Spurs were giving BTA to the Knicks early on. There was an interesting sequence with Karl Anthony Towns where Cat picked up 2 fouls early in the first quarter. I think it was in like the first minute and 5 seconds of play. To me, this is where the Knicks lost the game. Obviously, I was wrong. I thought this because after that, the Knicks game plan, bringing a lot of the reserves in with Mitchell Robinson just not playing well. The entire Knicks squad in the first quarter was just completely deflated. The Spurs went on an early run, and once they gained the lead, they never lost it up until the fourth quarter. Just were able to really drag out the offensive sets of the Knicks, playing incredible defense, hitting really good shots early on. Stephon Castle and Wemby did a really great job of making sure they got the shots they wanted and were able to really pick apart the Knicks defense. As I mentioned previously, the refs were all over this game. You really saw how they were not afraid to blow that whistle when they felt like it was needed. So with the things going on in previous games of the physicality just being ramped up to 11, led to a little bit slower basketball, so you understood why the product we were getting before was what it was. You don't want to have your hands too far into the game and making sure you intervene when necessary. The Knicks were just, oh man, they could not get anything going. Besides one player being Mr. OG Anunoby, OG just did an incredible job of staying in the game and making sure he was productive on defense and offense, having scored 7 points in the first quarter compared to the rest of his team. Jalen Brunson was getting a lot of shots blocked on him. These long, drawn-out possessions. The bigs were ineffective. Cat being with the 2 fouls early on, so he had to stay out the rest of the first quarter. And then Mitchell Robinson being very physically winded in this game. You could see that he was just not able to keep up with the pace. I think the first quarter is the best coached quarter for the Spurs. After that, it was more a matter of not how well the Spurs were playing, but just how bad the Knicks were. Mike Brown even had to go into his bench and pick up the third string center. I can't remember his name. He's only played like 8 minutes the entire playoff. Haku Porty, yes. I was never going to remember that. Yeah, he got a few minutes of burn here, considering they just really needed a body to be out there at this point. Spurs hit some really good threes in this game, going 6 of 9 from the first quarter. They actually break the record. Most threes made in the first half in the NBA Finals. Spurs closed out the quarter very strong, 41-22 going into the second quarter. So going into the second quarter, the Spurs team starts to pick up the pace again. De'Aaron Fox having a bounce back game, and he would have had a perfect game. He would have had a perfect game if he didn't make a crucial, honestly, probably the game-losing mistake in the fourth quarter, which we'll get to later on in this video. De'Aaron Fox hits back-to-back threes. Devin Vassell, having been the second star player in the first quarter alongside Wemby, ending that quarter with 12 points, comes into this one, and just they all get the ball moving really well on the Spurs. A lot of good shot selection. Dylan Harper's hitting some really good shots, making some good defensive plays. So really this seemed like the Spurs were just going to continue to run away with this one, and the Knicks still struggling with their play. We're just not able to get anything going into the later half of the game. So this quarter was probably the slowest one of the game because of the fact that the Spurs were able to just maintain their lead and their good style of play. The Knicks were getting a lot of free throws, getting to the line a lot. Jalen Brunson starting to pick it up a little bit, getting some shots down. He had 12 points in this quarter alone compared to his 4 within the first. Going into the second half, you really wanted to see the Knicks be able to gather themselves and go on a run, considering they were down 29 points going into the second half of this game. All right, so as we made our way into the second half of the game are where things really started to pick up for the Knicks. So the Knicks start the third quarter with a 13-0 run against the Spurs. The shots that were going down for the Knicks were really, really good, and it seems like they were able to outpace the Spurs, considering they had slowed down from the lead being as significant as it was. They never really went away, but the Knicks were able to just really continue that momentum going forward. Now, even though the Knicks were able to continue a good run, as I mentioned, the Spurs just really stuck around at this point. They were able to maintain the lead, having still a 20-point lead going into the fourth quarter. As I mentioned earlier, the fouls that happened early on with Karl-Anthony Towns really limited the Knicks roster. OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson doing a great job of scoring for the Knicks. They needed help. It was pretty obvious. If you weren't either of those two players on the Knicks, it's most likely that you weren't really doing much at all. The hack of Mitch was implemented as well in this quarter. Mitchell Robinson just being completely abysmal from the line. Spurs end the quarter with a lead of 90-75, 15-point lead in this game. Now, this is where we watch some pretty incredible basketball being played. The New York Knicks going into the fourth quarter came out the gate hot once again. I don't know what sort of rah-rah speech Mike Brown gave them, Jalen Brunson gave them in that locker room going into the second half. Man, did it work. And it led to some incredible play, some really hard playing basketball, good effort from the Knicks. After this half, the Spurs really seemed to settle into their lead and think they were unstoppable, considering, you do have someone who is viewed as one of the best players, if not the best player in the world right now with Victor Wembanyama. 29-point lead should seem safe, right? In most cases, that's probably true. In the NBA Finals against the New York Knicks, that's not the case. The Knicks make it a 10-point game by the 6-minute mark, having clawed back down 29, able to score 20 points. The Spurs were just completely deflated in this quarter. The Knicks really wanted it, and you can see that. The Spurs were just not able to complete the looks they had, and just the scoring was so bad. Lots of really awkward possessions for the Spurs. It seemed like everyone just got really nervous with what was going on. And the Knicks, every shot they threw up, it was going in. OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson were just sort of taking turns on the offense. Here's your shot, here's my shot, and it worked. The two of them actually ended up being the highest scorers in the entire game. The only ones over 30. So with the Spurs, they are just not able to translate their offense, having scored less than 25 points in the second half by this 6-minute mark as well. So Knicks go on a 17-4 run, and at this point, I'm looking around like, holy shit, they might actually complete the biggest comeback in playoff history. There's no way we're witnessing this, right? A little no, and I really felt this was going to happen. I completely shifted my mindset on the Spurs being able to hold them off. I knew at this point that the Knicks were going to win this game. So at the 3-minute mark of the game, the teams just really started trading buckets with one another. The Spurs and the Knicks able to hit some really clutch shots. At this point of the game, you could really see the pressure was mounting. A 2-possession game within the final stretch. So the New York Knicks are able to gain the lead for the first time. You would never have expected the Knicks to be able to just really get their stuff going to this level at home, with the opportunity to make this a 3-1 series lead, having overcome the largest deficit in NBA Finals history against the next proclaimed king of basketball with Victor Wembanyama in front of you. It was something to watch. Spurs are able to get up by 1 off some free throws from Castle. Again, similar situation as the third game. Now, this is where the final nail for the Spurs coffin struck. De'Aaron Fox gets the ball back, runs up the court, drives, and decides to go for a layup with 16 seconds left on the game clock. Why he decided to do this? He received a lot of scrutiny because of it, and honestly, I think it's deserved. He has 16 seconds left on the game clock. You're up by 1. You sort of want to dribble the ball out. You're the starting point guard who has a pretty good shooting percentage at the free throw line, which it's a high possibility that the Knicks are going to try to foul you so you can get 2 shots up instead of potentially hitting a 3, and then now it's a 1-possession game, with the Knicks now having to hit a 3 to possibly go into overtime or not lose the game. And De'Aaron Fox decides to drive, go for an open layup. The shot misses. Knicks get the ball back, call for a timeout. And then something I was curious about, OG Anunoby is going to inbound the ball. Seems like the Spurs game plan was to make sure you double Brunson, don't let him get any shots off. They decided to not guard the inbound pass from OG Anunoby. I didn't understand what the logic was. The only person who was consistent throughout this entire game and has scored an incredible amount of shots has been OG Anunoby. Why would you leave him open and not guard the inbound pass? So he throws the ball in. Jalen Brunson gets it, throws up a really awkward 3, but it seemed like he just wanted to get the ball near the rim to whoever was able to get there in time to be able to tip it in or get another shot up. So Jalen Brunson throws the ball up. OG Anunoby, having thrown the inbound pass to Brunson, has no one on him, runs down the lane, tips it in, Knicks up by 1. After this, Stephon Castle gets the ball, goes for a layup. It's blocked by Josh Hart, and the Knicks win Game 4. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. The Knicks now have a 3-1 lead against the San Antonio Spurs, going back to San Antonio for Game 5 on Saturday. The Knicks earned this win in every way. They tried their absolute hardest. Who would have thought we're here? We're now 1 game away from crowning our next NBA champions. Or are we witnessing only a GOAT could do? Only a GOAT has done once 10 years ago, right? Where we witnessed LeBron James take down the Warriors, having been down 3-1 in the finals to make NBA history as the first team to ever come back. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen here. If you ask me, I think the Knicks do close this out and they win this game. Not next game. I think the Spurs are going to win the next one, but Game 6 at home in New York, I do believe the Knicks close this out and are crowned our next NBA champions. But if we're talking about storyline here, Victor Wembanyama being the next promised prince of basketball to come back 3-1 in his first NBA Finals. I mean, it's there. Yes, guys, Game 4 of the 2026 NBA Finals. Who would have thought we would have witnessed some historic level of play? But yes, Game 5 is on Saturday. What are your guys' thoughts, predictions for the game? Are the Knicks going to close it all out and give the Spurs a gentleman's sweep back in San Antonio? Or is Victor Wembanyama going to pull off the near impossible 3-1 comeback? We're going to find out. I'm excited to keep coming back and watching just some great basketball, discussing it with you guys. Comment down below your predictions, like and subscribe as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one.